Recording. Okay. Section number second, unit number 5, destructive and non-destructive testing. Destructive testing, test procedure, it is in brief: significance, tensile test, hardness test, impact test, creep test, and fatigue test. So yesterday we have conducted the practical related to tensile test, impact test, hardness, creep, and fatigue. So instead of this, next practical hardness test, how we'll take that I will going to show in practical. Why the name is given destructive means after breaking this component, we cannot reuse. Destructive means once the component is tested, we cannot reuse. Destructive means once the component is broken, we cannot use. Then study of non-destructive testing, NDT. So here's NDT testing, the component will not get break. And after checking also, we can use this component. In this, we're going to study dye penetration test, magnetic particle test, ultrasonic test, radiography test, ED current test, and introductions to advanced non-destructive testing. So this much things we're going to study under this chapter number 5, destructive and non-destructive testing. So this is our syllabus. Difference between destructive and non-destructive. Or component in the assembly, etc. Okay, so let us we go to the next. Next PPT. Okay. Okay. Course prerequisitions related to this chapter: engineering, chemistry, ferrous, non-ferrous metals, and manufacturing process. So this is the before study we required as usual these 3 points. Okay. Next. Okay. Yesterday we have studied about tensile test. Now in this tensile test, we have prepared the specimens. There is the gauge diameter, gauge length, and overall length. So like this specimen, we can prepare to conduct this tensile test on UTM machine, universal tensile testing machines. So initially you have to decide the gauge diameter. You can calculate the cross-section area of gauge diameters. And after that, by using the Indian standard formula, 5.65 root of A means cross-section area of gauge diameter. So you will get required gauge length. And after this component, we can put in between fixed and movable jaw of ultimate tensile test and start these machines. The graph will get developed. So this graph is nothing but your stress strain graph, means load versus displacement. In this case, tensile strength, that is equal to force upon cross section. Force means apply loads, and the A means your cross section area of the gauge length. So here F upon A is the cross section area of that gauge length, and force is applied, force on both jaw, that force upon A, this is equal to tensile stress. Okay, so this is a specimen preparations. Specimen preparation, how to prepare? First you have to decide the gauge diameters. From these gauge diameters you can calculate the cross section area of that gauge diameters. And after that, you can make use of this formula 5.65 root of A. A is the cross section area of that gauge length. You will get the total gauge length. So 5 gauge length, this is equal to gauge length, this is equal to 5.65 root of A. A is the cross section area within that gauge length. Next. So this is the machines where we can kept yesterday the specimen under testing. Two jaws are there, upper jaw that is fixed, lower jaw this is movable. On this threaded pillars are there. With help of this thread, this lower jaw we can move up and down, and which can apply the load on the jobs. Okay, so this is the schematic diagrams related to universal tensile testing machines. Next. So after applying the load, you will have to see the graph like this way. So this is the load, and here the elongations or displacement we will say. So initially at one point, the yield point will be there. Next yield point, after that notch, and after that braking strength will be there. Related to this tensile test, you can remember only engineering trace. The first graph is there. So once the load will get applied, formation of yield point, after that elongation will take place. After that, UTS means ultimate tensile strength, and last one is breaking strength. So what is difference between a true strain and engineering strength? This is the part of our strength of materials. But engineering strength means initially we have tested the jobs, and your true strength means after applying the particular loads, cross section area will get reduced, and because of this strength will get increased. So this is the main difference between true trace and engineering trace. Means after elongation, whatever strength we will measure, that is a true strain. And before that, in original condition, initial phase engineering stress is there. So normally we can going for this engineering test to get the tensile strength of this material. So this is the graph related to stress strain. Already I have studied the yield point, the engineering, ultimate tensiles, and breaking strength. Okay, next. So here is also evaluation of properties. Uh, Engineering stress strain curve showing the various stress value with the elastic and plastic regions. So this side elastic and plastic regions means before yield point elastic region is there, after yield point plastic region is there. And this right side engineering stress strain curve showing the yield point. Two types of yield points are there, upper and lower yield point. So corresponding yield point, yield strength will be there, and corresponding uh, ultimate strength at ultimate tensile point is there, and last one is fracture strength. So in second graph, you will have to see uh, this elastic region, plastic regions, lower yield point, upper yield point, and here elastic region and plastic regions. So in first graph, two regions will be there. That is the elastic and plastic. And second point, elastic plastic region is there, but along with this, upper and lower points will be there. Okay, next. Next one. Typically engineering stress strain curve is there. So here stress versus strain curves for brittle materials and typical stress strain curve for polymetric materials. So brittle materials, there is no yield point, directly fracture will be there from 1 to 3 points. Directly fractures will be there, but in polymetric material, just like plastic, initially the stress will increase constant and again it will get increased. So this is the engineering stress strain curve for brittles and polymetric materials. Next, property determined by tensile strength. Here's in the last 2-3 graphs, we have seen the proof traces are there, elastic trace are there, ultimate tensile, breaking trace is there, yield trace is there, resilience is there, toughness is there, stiffness, ductility, malleability, type of fractures, and a strain hardening coefficient. So this much property you will get under tensile test, but here related to our syllabus, you can remember only ultimate tensile test, then yield strength, elongation, yield point, reduction of cross-section area. This much you have to remember as per your syllabus. Okay. Once again, I will repeat. So here's property determined by tensile testing, tensile strength, then yield strength, elongations, and reduction area. This much it is more than sufficient to remember this. Next. So next test, that is the impact test. Impact test means how much energy that component will get absorbed. Normally in manufacturing process, a lot of impact loading is there. For example, forging is there, impact loading is there, press tooling is there, impact loading is there. So whenever impact loading is there, then there is a need to decide the material in such way that it can absorb the maximum energy. So what is that energy? Depends upon the materials. We can select the material for particular manufacturing process, and that is decided by impact test. Yesterday, impact test we have tested the 90-degree and the component is vertical in cantilever type, and just by striking these pendulums, you will get directly energy absorbed by that component. So this energy, why there is need of this energy? Because depends upon this, we can select the die materials or component materials which is actually required in the particular application. One example you have to remember, forging die material is there, impact loading is there. In impact loadings, whatever energy will get introduced in that die, that energy will get sustained. Otherwise, if energy is not up to that level, the sometimes material will get break. So energy absorbing capacity also we can test by using impact testing. Okay. Yesterday we have conducted one practicals related to this. Okay. Next. So this is the specimens, Charpy test specimen as well as your impact test specimen is there. Impact test specimens, normally we can make the notch in the cantilevers regions, means around 22 mm from one end, we can make the notch. And in case of the Charpy test at the middles, we can make this notch. And in Charpy test, normally the specimen size is around 75, but in impact test normally is around 55 is there. Okay, so this is the specimen required for Charpy and impact test. So how to, this is actually given as per Indian standard, need not to prepare. Whatever given in Indian standard, you can be put as it is there. Next. So this is the specimen arrangement, ISO impact and Charpy test is there. ISO impact and Charpy test specimen arrangement is there. So you can see yesterday we have seen this arrangement, and just by striking that pendulums on that dials, you will get total energy absorbed by the component. Okay. Next arrangement. Next one. Here is some formula how to calculate the energy absorbed by the component. Uh, Numericals problems are there, but this facility, it is available on the machine itself. Directly, you will get the energy absorbed by the component in joules. And this energy absorbing capacity, uh, it is typically depends upon the velocity of strikers, specimen dimensions, notch effect, and temperatures. So the energy absorbing capacity of the job, it is typically depends upon velocity of striking of that pendulum, specimen dimension. Normally we can use 10 by 10 square bars, but if we increase that, energy absorbing capacities also depends upon this. Notch effect, depth of notch and width of notch, it will also affect on the toughness calculations or energy absorbing capacity, that means toughness. Then temperatures, if hot atmosphere is there, normally it will get bent very early, it will get break. So these variables, it is depends upon the uh, energy absorbing capacity, or we can decide the toughness of the materials. Next. So this is the graph related to variation of energy to ruptures with the temperatures in impact test of metals. So how this graph will be there? Initially slightly increases, again it will goes on increasing, but as the temperatures it will get increased, it will go to the peak points, and after this reduced. Okay, so this is about the impact testing. So temperatures and energies to ruptures. The transition temperature range is given, mixed failure is given, ductile failure is there, brittle failure is break early, then brittle failures will be there. And after reaching these peak points, ductile failures. Next. Then fatigue test. With frequently trace fluctuations. Frequently means we can apply the load, remove the load. Fluctuation in the load. With frequent trace fluctuation, material may fail at trace level far below its ultimate tensile strength. Suddenly, it is termed as fatigue failures. Before ultimate tensile strength, materials will get fail due to the fluctuation in the stresses. Repeated loads. Repeated load is there. If rotating part is there, a traces is induced. So because of this induced stresses, the one stage will come where the component may get failed. This is called fatigue failures. So with frequently trace fluctuation, material may fall at trace level below its ultimate tensile strength. It is called fatigue failures. Suppose if any component shaft is rotating, okay, and in the rotating condition, after few times, the traces will go to the maximum limit, and before the ultimate tensile strength of that material, the materials will get break. This is called a fatigue failure. It occurs in rotating machine part, just like shaft, spring, connecting rod, aircraft wings, turbines, compressor pumps, rubber tires, etc. Factor causing fatigue failures are applied traces of sufficient magnitudes. So, which are the factors related to failures? applied traces of sufficient magnitude is not there, then means whatever the load is there, behind that load, if you applied, the traces will induce. Large variation in applied traces, large number of cycle of the applied traces. So in rotating shaft, what is actually load carrying capacity? What is the material of the shaft? And how much the duration of that shaft rotating in the normal conditions depends upon this. If any rotating shaft induced stresses limit, it will go uh, behind the limit, then fatigue failure will be there, and this will be before the ultimate tensile strength. Okay, next. So here the type of traces and the uh, variations in the traces it is given. Type of traces. So first that is A, reverse traces is there. So here the reverse traces are there in this compression and tensions. Upper part that is the tension, lower part under compressions. Reverse traces are there. Then repeated traces are there. Same the amplification is there, so repeated traces are there, and randomly. So traces may be reversed. Reverse means whatever traces will be above the line of sigma, same will be below. Tension and compression similar, but in repeated, same things will be occurs repeated from the specific points, then it is called repeated. And irregular or randomly traces will be there. It will shown on the graph. So this much it is more than sufficient as per your syllabus. It may be repeated, and it may be reversed, or it may be random. Okay, so this is the types of traces in the fatigue you will have to see like this graphs. Now next, so fatigue testing machines you can see here. The apply load on both side component is middle ones. It is rotating and apply the loads, and you will see at this machine, Howler's testing machine, stress variation cross section of the specimen during the fatigue testing. So how the traces will be introduced in the component, it is given. Okay, so initially the component, it will get rotate between the bearing, and apply load is there, and traces will get induced in this section. So like this type of machine is there to test the fatigue traces. Okay, then next, fatigue test, it is not that much useful in your syllabus. Only what is fatigue trace means, trace will be induced in the parts when repeated apply loads, and the component will get fail before the ultimate tensile strength. This is called fatigue failures. Okay, next. So typically fatigue curves are there. So maximum traces and number of cycles to failures. This is the very good examples of conveyor chains used in sugar industry. If you plot the graph, maximum traces and number of cycles. So here's maximum traces, minimum number of cycles, maximum traces will be there. And if you apply the number of cycles, then there is a lead to failure this material as shown in the graphs. Okay, number of cycles, traces will be more, and the component will get break under that conditions. The fatigue curve for ferrous and non-ferrous also is there. Next, fatigue fractures you will have to see. Fracture appearance, grains and cracking grains are there. fatigue fracture showing the various regions. So either the fractures, you will get break like this, origin of cracks, smooth regions, benchmarks will be there, and fast growth will be there fractures. And here it is a crack and grain size are like this. So the fractures structure you will have to see under the microscope like this way. This is also not that much related to your syllabus. Microstructures will be like this way. Okay. Next, the protection method: surface hardening, grain size, surface finish, proper design, surface decant, corrosions. So these are some methods actually used in industry to protect the working any component. A surface must be hardened, grain size be refined, and optimum size will be there. Surface finish as per the requirement of the particular fit. Proper designs depends upon material. There should not be decarbonization. Carbon should be remains and corrosions will not take place. So this is the some protective methods are there in our engineering field. Surface hardening, grain size, surface finish, proper design, and surface decarbonization and corrosion. So this is very important while protecting any components from the atmosphere. Hello. Factors affecting fatigue life: rate of cycling loading, means the number of cycles are there. Forming of trace cycle, each cycle how much trace will be there. Environmental conditions, hot, cold, like this. Size of the component, very thin component is there, more traces will be there. Trace gradient, then how the trace will get indulged, and temperature of the surrounding. So this point is more than sufficient, but slightly you have to remember this. It is also that not that much importance from the your syllabus point of view. Factors affecting fatigue lives: number of cycles, materials, the loads, temperature. Just now we have discussed that. So temperatures, that is very important. Size of thin component, easily the traces will get introduced. Environmental conditions, humidity, climate conditions, this will also affect on this. Repetition of the cycle, maybe reverse or repeated or irregular cycles also affect on the fatigue lives. Next. So here the creep test. Next part, this is the creep test. What is actually creep test here? Deformation of the materials under a particular temperature. So you can see here one component, or that is called specimens. It is kept in the furnace, that is heated furnace, and we can apply the loads on one side. Lever arrangement is there. So how much elongations will take place at that temperature? By adding the weight at the right sides, you will see the elongations, and initially it is little bit increasing, after that remain constant, and again that will get increased. So from this test, what thing you will get? The how much the expansion of that component will take place at that particular temperatures and at particular loads. So specimens, it is kept in the furnace, heated furnace, and we can apply the loads by the levers on the right side. At what loads the specimens getting elongations, that we have to decide, and below that, that is our creep strength. Okay, so this is the machines actually used for testing the creep. Next. So here is the creep curve with the 3 stages. First primary creep is there, time versus creep strain is there on vertical axis. Initially, it will remain as it is. Only the creep strain will be at the point B. From B to C, primary creep will be there. So this all specimens already kept in the furnace, and we are applying the loads. So B to C primary creep is there, means if we goes on increasing times, the creep strain will get increased up to point C. After that, if we increase the times, so here C to D, a little bit less creep is there, very less creep is from C to delta E, near about the same or constant line is there, and from D to E, this tertiary creep is there. So maximum creep rate is delta E divided by delta, this delta E divided by delta T. This is maximum, minimum creep rate is given. So creep rate we can calculate. This is experimentally things, but related to your syllabus, what is creep test? Creep test means specimen we have to heat in furnace, and by applying the loads, the elongation will take place. In these elongations, initially primary creep, after that little bit constant and certain variation is there. So minimum creep delta E divided by delta T, and after this, once the time will get increased, creep strain will get increased, and ultimately the component will get fractured. So this is the creep test. Next. So here the schematic representation of effect of temperatures on creep curve at constant traces. So this is the time, and this is traces there. So here T1, T2, T3, and T4. As temperatures will goes on increasing, the creep traces will goes on increasing. From this graphs it will see the curve. T1 is great. T1, it is less than T2, and T2 is less than T3, and T3 is less than T4. So every times graph is going up. That means temperatures effect always be there in creep test, creep strain. Okay, next. Next. So what thing will be happens in the structure of the component here? Creep fracture, triangular fracture is there, and here intragranular fracture is there. Randomly you can see under the creep, triangular fractures and intragranular fracture is there. Two types of fractures are there, triangulars and intraangular fractures are there. This is also not that much related to your syllabus. Okay, so up till now about the destructive testing. Anybody having any problems related to this? Destructive testing. Destructive testing, which type of testing we have studied under destructive? So here's what is destructive testing? Destructive testing means the component we can test, and after this we cannot reuse that component. This is the destructive. So which type of test we have studied under this?
First, that is tensile. First, that is a tensile. Now, yesterday we have conducted one experiment how to test the specimens on ultimate or universal tensile testing machines. Universal tensile testing machines, it consists of two jobs. One is fixed and second is movable. Initially, you have to prepare the specimen as per Indian standards, decide the gauge diameters. After this, you have to calculate gauge length, get it turns on the lathe machines and put in between two job universal tensile testing machines. By applying the loads, ultimately it will get break. Now, before breaking, you will get the graph. This graph is nothing but load versus displacement. Correct. So in this graph also, you will get the yield point, ultimate tensile strength and fracture strength. Two types of regions will be there, plastic and elastic region is there. Elastic means before yield point, material will get regains their shapes, but after yield point, materials will get in plastic deformation regions. Okay. And here's we can test the elongations, then yield points, then tensile strength and fracture strength. So normally formula you can use here, a tensile strength that is equal to force upon cross section area. Tensile strength, this is equal to force upon cross section area. Force, it is applied load on the material. A is the area, that is the cross section area in the gauge diameters. You will get the tensile strength. So like this, we can calculate the tensile strength and a load corresponding to yield point. From this also you can calculate tensile strength, that is yield load divided by gauge diameters or gauge cross section area. Destructive testing, we have seen the tensile strength, how to measure it is on universal tensile testing machines. Here's we can get it check on the universal tensile testing machine. Initially prepare the specimens, and after this we have gone through the next test, that is your fatigue test. Cyclic loading is that it strength, it should be below the ultimate tensile strength, and under cyclic loading the material will get break. This is called fatigue failures. And number of cycles and traces, on this we can decide the fatigue limit also. Next test, that is creep resistance or creep strength. Creep strength means the specimen we can put in the furnace. We have to increase the temperatures, and with the help of levers we can apply the load on the specimens. So once the load will goes on increasing, the elongations will take place. So we can plot the graph of that creep, the time versus the load applied on this creep traces. Initially it is a little bit increasing, then constant, and it will goes on increasing. So delta E divided by delta T, this is the minimum creep rate as per the diagram. So this much things we have studied under the destructive testing. So non-destructive testing means here's we cannot break that component. this same component after testing, we can make use in the assembly or in the working condition. This is called non-destructive testing. So non-destructive testing does not damage. This method does not reduce the service of life of the component. Means after testing also this component it will go on working. These tests does not measure the mechanical property like tensile, hardness, etc. Whatever the mechanical properties are there, tensile, yield, elongation, reduction area, this will not measure. These tests are used to detect, locate defect in the flaws in the component, which reduce the service of the life of component, resulting premature failure of the component during the services. It is very simple. This component may be flaws or defect in the material that will be detected, and because of this, any defect or inclusion or cracks are there. Even though if we use this material in the assembly, this initially introduced cracks will get increases and material will get break. This is not safety use. So here types of non-destructive testing methods are there: visual inspections, magnetic particle inspections, dye penetrations inspections or liquid penetration testing, ED current inspections, ultrasonic inspection, and radiography. There are 6 types of non-destructive testing: visual inspection just by naked eyes, magnetic particle, this is only used for ferrous material, the dye penetration test normally we can use in welding, ED current inspections we can use in testing the surface scrap, ultrasonics, any inclusions or the blow holes, pin holes exist in the materials that we can decide by ultrasonic. Radiograph similar to ultrasonic, but this is very costly and normally used in the research atmosphere or the different types of delicate, heavy and costly material purpose we can use this radiography. Okay, so these are the 6 types of non-destructive testing. Next, visual inspections. It is used to detect or reveal the surface defect. Surface defect purpose we can use this. Surface finish or any variation in shape or size of the component. Checking the dimension can be done by using the scale, tapes, micrometers. Presence of crack on the surface, surface roughness can be checked by moving the fingers on the component. To detect or identify the surface defect or crack, lower power magnification glass may be used. So by your naked eye, we can test the specimen, surface finish, dimension, or any other crack is on the surface of the component or not. That is checked by visual inspections. Next, then magnetic particle test is there. Magnetic particle test, if the specimen is there and suppose there is some certain crack on the surface of component, by spreading the magnetic particles around the surface, the magnetic fields will get developed, but these magnetic particles will get deposited nearer to the crack where the defect is there. You can see in this figure particles to the detect like crack and sample magnet. So whenever just like V-shaped crack is there on the surface where the magnetic particles are deposited. From this, we can see that there is a problem in this component. This is the magnetic particle detection test. Next, magnetic particle detection test also we can do like this. Iron powders we can put around the surface of the component. Magnetic field will get create, and whenever a defect is there, near to that defect, that powders will get deposit. So here iron powder, it is deposited nearer to the crack. From this also we can detect that there is a problem on the surface of the component. Next. So here's we can apply these different types of coils, electrical coils around the component, and start the current. Current will flow through this uh, component, and whenever crack is there, around the crack, the certain mark systems it is given in these figures, and because of this the cracks identification will take place. Longitudinal method of magnetizations, initially by spraying iron powders, but here by using a longitudinal method of magnetizations, you will see the crack on the surface of the component. Next. Now next test, this is the liquid penetration test is that. Liquid penetration test, initially clean the surface with abundant clean before test, remove or cleaner by dry, then apply penetrant, one of the liquid, remove the excess of penetrant from the surface, then apply developers and wait for better time, you will get this. So you can use here three: cleaner, penetrant, and developers. Three liquids are there. So initially you can take any component, get it clean by cleaners. After this, you can apply the penetrant, and next is developers. So this simple concept, it is like this. You can take any component, okay, having certain surface cracks, clean it. After this, you can pour that penetrant, fluorescent penetrant is there, liquid is there, and after that you can put over this white chalk powder. So white chalk powders, if there is a defect, white chalk powder, it will get the color of penetrant, red colors, then we'll say that there is a defect. So this is normally used in our welding. Liquid penetrant inspections means penetrant, this is the one of the liquids. Fluorescent liquid is there. So initially we can clean the job. After this cleaning, we can put this penetrant on the surface of this component, and after this we can spray over this developer just like chalk, white color chalk. So when this white color chalks will get color of developers penetrant, then we'll say that is a defect on the surface of this. This is the liquid penetration defect. Okay. So now our time is over. Today's sessions related to destructive and non-destructive testing. We have studied some destructive testing just like creep test, fatigue failures, and tensile test. And next part, we have studied about the non-destructive testing, visual testing, particles, magnetic particle detection testing, and liquid penetrant inspection. So up to here, sir, if anybody having any doubt, you can ask. So next lectures will cover the remaining parts. Likewise, we will cover the total portion, and then again we will repeat all these things. Okay. So shall we conclude here? So thank you. We'll stop here. Thank you, recording.